Ben Shapiro was in the news over the weekend when it turned out that a couple who had vandalized a synagogue in Indiana last year, the man in the couple says that he blames the wife who had become radicalized through what is becoming a fairly typical sort of map of sources of news, going from Fox News to Ben Shapiro, then to Breitbart, and then to sites like Stormfront and other explicitly white supremacist news outlets. He says it's unfair to list him amongst that because he himself is Jewish and because he is a critic of the alt-right. And yet this is not the first time that someone who has conducted themselves in this way says that Ben Shapiro is one of the people that they or their associates have been radicalized through. What do you think about that?
Well, my first reaction to this story was that Ben Shapiro is consistently claiming to see anti-Semitism in corners of politics where it's non-existent, and yet at the same time he's inspiring anti-Semites around the United States. So the supreme irony of that is not lost on me, and it shouldn't be lost on the rest of us. He was screaming and crying about Ilhan Omar and her comments that were taken out of context, and then you have Ben Shapiro fans that are spray painting swastikas on synagogues. So I think that's a little bit more anti-Semitic than Ilhan Omar comments that were maybe not worded in the exact perfect way that Ben Shapiro would want. But it goes to show what this whole conversation is really about. It's Islamophobia disguised as caring about bigotry, when in fact the whole argument is rooted in bigotry in itself. So the fact that there's special attention being paid to Ilhan Omar is a bigoted kind of premise, and the fact that things like this go kind of swept under the rug when people are actually inspired to do anti-Semitic acts by Ben Shapiro goes to show the hypocrisy in the conversation.
Yeah, and like I said, this is not the first person that has either followed Ben Shapiro on Twitter and liked a bunch of their posts or anything like that. What's really interesting is I talked about sort of this familiar map of moving from Fox News to ever more extreme outlets. And I saw a journalist on Twitter was doing mapping of this through Facebook likes, because apparently your likes on Facebook are actually chronological. You can see when people liked certain things, and they found examples where they moved from mainstream to more and more extreme sources. The complicating factor is that, of course, he doesn't believe that what he is doing is radicalizing people. And I wonder, like, let's say, Emma, you take off, you've got your own podcast, you're huge and influential, and then someone does something terrible and says that you're a source. I wonder, like, what would you take away from that experience? Like, would your approach be the same as Ben Shapiro's?
Absolutely not. I mean, I think we all learn lessons in this industry, and the difference between the left and the right in terms of media and pundits is that the right is obsessed with doubling down, as is our president, and the left attempts to be self-reflective. And that's in many ways why the left isn't as strong. It's just kind of by our very nature, is the fact that we're more thoughtful and we're more willing to consider alternative realities than just kind of digging our heels in and saying, no, we're right all the time. So it allows for people like Ben Shapiro to appear strong. It's Trump's playbook 101. And someone like Bill O'Reilly was very good at just doubling down, never apologizing. And so I would assume, and I would hope that I would be reflective if I inspired some sort of violence, but that's not the route that Shapiro has decided to take. He's just decided to talk really, really fast and get out of it because that makes him very intellectual, John. I don't know if you know that.
That's literally the only thing that makes one an intellectual, actually. That's why I talk as fast as I do.
The rapidity of the speech.
Exactly. You didn't even say words there, but it sounded pretty smart. Imagine if you had a British accent.
My IQ is 4,000.
Exactly. And I just want to make clear, while I was I wanted you to sort of play along with what it would be like if it were you. The difference with these personalities is that the same arguments that they make about demographic change and invasions and caravans being funded by Jewish billionaires show up in the manifestos of literal terrorists. And yet they still think that well, I mean, you can't really connect me to them. I don't know how clear the connection would have to be. I guess they would have to be suited up in body armor alongside the terrorist to feel any reasonable connection there. But yeah, I think that the media should be willing to acknowledge that. Thank you very much for watching this clip from the Damage Report. If If you liked it, don't forget to subscribe to this channel and ring the bell on YouTube to get notifications of our new videos. And of course, you can catch the full Damage Report live every weekday at 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific on TYT Network on YouTube TV.